Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome back to Houselights, specifically the House of Bigelow, where we have deployed to look at the works of Kathryn Bigelow. And we are here this week looking at her Oscar-winning entry, The Hurt Locker, from 2008, starring Jeremy Renner. And I am one of the hosts of this show. I am your grizzled, slightly unstable squad leader. And I am joined, John Mills, and I am joined by my two compatriots, the ever stalwart, by the book, Darren Moser, and the person I'm most likely to shoot in the leg when I'm trying to save him, Tristan Riddell. Welcome, everybody.
I knew before you even open your mouth, I was going to be the nervous guy who gets shot in the leg.
You know that it's inevitably going to happen. And if any of the three of us are going to do it, it's going to be this guy right here.
It's true.
You know, it's true.
With a 3-man podcast and a 3-man EOD team.
Yeah,
I was going to be the one who's
I
get
don't have
shot.
any more spit to clean this blood off this giant bullet.
Jeez. Yeah, that's a tense scene. A tense scene. So anyway, here we are with The Hurt Locker, the movie that very famously Jim Cameron's ex-wife upset him at the Oscars by winning Best Picture. Won a ton of awards, a lot of esteem. It's a very in-depth personal portrait of people in the Iraq War with a lot of real world vibe to it. And it got a lot of positive press at the time. And here we are. It's hard to believe it's almost been 2 decades since it came out. Now, Darren, I know that you saw this previous to this viewing. Did you see this in the theater, or was this one that you watched at home after all of the esteem and the awards buzz had washed over you?
Yeah, this was probably due to the Oscars. Back in the day when I cared about the Oscars, we would often watch, movies that were either up for Best Picture or if it won, it was like, okay, give this a shake. So usually that was enough to try it out. So I don't believe I caught this in theaters, but yeah, it was one of those where, not talking about the first time watching, but in my recent rewatch, I was streaming it, and this maybe was something with my earphones, or maybe it was something in the mix. I want to confirm with you guys, but for me, the mix kept going between ears at different times. And I don't know if that was something weird or special, because it kind of enhanced it. Like when he put the suit on, it was like only in one ear, and it felt really claustrophobic. And I'm like, but I don't know if that's actually the mix. So
I listened to headphones too. Now, granted, we probably weren't watching the same streaming source, but I was listening in headphones too, and I didn't hear that.
Okay, I was watching on Amazon, so it was probably something with their mix. So I don't want to give the movie too much credit for Amazon's mistake. But
there was this is a total tangent, but there was one time I was listening to an audiobook about Khan Noonien Singh, and it was after I got like halfway through it, and I started talking to a friend of mine, and I said, I was like, man, this book is so nonlinear. It's so much fun. It's so great because it just goes from one time period to another. It's completely out of order. And I was like, I'm really enjoying it. And the guy I was talking to had read the book. He's like, that's not a nonlinear book. And the jackass that I am, when I ripped the CD from the library, I ripped it out of order. And when I made the audiobook file,
nice.
I was espousing it like, I was like, oh, this is such great nonlinear Tarantino.
I copied the assignment wrong, Professor. My way is better.
You created art, Tristan. You were an AI precursor right there.
Just put your books on shuffle.
There you go. Ooh, it's a good idea. So, Tristan, this is your first time seeing The Hurt Locker.
That's correct.
How did this one pass by you? Like, is it something where you were just always like, oh, I'll get around to it, and it just sort of like faded? What was the reason you missed it?
Yeah, this was not one of those where, okay, so like I put off watching Breaking Bad for many seasons because people wouldn't shut up about it. Like people would not stop talking about Breaking Bad. And it got to almost like a cult-like status where I just roll my eyes whenever somebody would bring up Breaking Bad. And so I just refused to watch it because people were bugging me. I know it's kind of hipster thing to do, like, not watch something.
I think I was one of the people bugging you. So this sounds right.
Oh my God, we've been friends for a long time. Yes. But this was not that situation. Like this was not that situation. It was, when I saw that it won Best Picture, I was elated that, that a woman finally won best, like a female director won Best Picture. And, it only happened. Women were only nominated for Best Picture 4 times before in the history of the Academy, but for some reason, I just never got around to it. It was always like, oh yeah, Hurt Locker, I should watch that. I like Jeremy Renner, I should watch that. Kathryn Bigelow, sure, why not? It just completely escaped me all those times.
Well, that's fair enough. I mean,
no real reason.
This podcast made us better people because now we are the people that watch the things we should have watched.
There you go.
Almost like it was a missing frame or something.
Yeah. I was about to say it's like a missing frames here on the Nerd Party. Check that out too. But were you familiar with it? Was there anything that had been?
Yeah, I feel this was one of those movies that I feel definitely integrated itself into the zeitgeist. Like everybody was mentioning it. There's pop culture references. The first thing that pops in my brain is when Jim and Pam come home with the baby and they're trying to put the crib. Not the crib. They're trying to put the car seat into the car, and they keep freaking out because they're going to wake her up. And he's like, "Oh my God, it's like the Hurt Locker." Like we kept referencing, we kept hearing references like that all throughout pop culture. And I would see certain scenes here and there. I always hated the poster because the DVD was such a bad Photoshop job of Jeremy Renner. I always thought it looked like Treat Williams instead of Jeremy Renner, or like the dude from the first Substitute. I know Treat Williams was in the second Substitute, but like the dude from the first Substitute. I can't remember
Tom
his
Berenger?
name. Yes, Tom Berenger on the cover. He looks like Tom Berenger. It's super weird. Anyway, but yeah, it's one of those movies you see it Blockbuster or you see the poster of, and you're like, oh yeah, that won Best Picture. I should get around to it. And also, it was shot in 16 millimeter, and I love movies that are shot in 16 millimeter. So I have no excuse.
So, Darren, that's a question I'll throw to you. Is Tristan mentions it's shot in 16 millimeter. This movie is created just, it's post-digital switch over for film and stuff like that, but it's definitely got, it's living in a weird time. It's living during that transitional time before digital's completely taken over and the look of things is sort of going back and forth. Do you feel that there was visual consistency to this? Do you feel that there was any sort of a mix of visual, like, did it look like the camera and shutter speeds and everything were shifting too much, or did it look very consistent throughout?
No, I think this is one of those movies that, because it was made at the time it was made, it would be really not impossible, but it would be much more difficult to get that look back nowadays, because now we have the advent of, really small cameras, sports cameras, things like this. Totally would have been shot on a fleet of iPhones or GoPros or something if it was made nowadays. The fact that she shot in Jordan, and in the summer, like you're shooting, so you get a lot of environment. I think by doing film, not only do you get the grain and that kind of old worldly news interviewer, like, is on location shooting a piece for National Geographic or something, like it has that kind of vibe, but apparently it was very, very difficult because they did a lot of editing in Jordan, like as they're shooting, because there was just hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage. So it had to be like hand curried to London for dailies and shipped, like, because they didn't want to maybe get it exposed by the x-rays. And it sounded like just one more wrinkle that made production not pleasant besides all the other parts of this movie. But through all that, I think, like I was saying, you would have to work harder to get that look nowadays. I think something else would look cleaner, because I look at this movie and I don't think shaky cam. I don't think it's very stable. It's very, even when they're running around, there's moments, obviously, like when there's a frenetic energy.
I'm giving Darren a look.
Tristan's
for those of you at home.
Look. But on the whole, as we've said several times, talking about different movies, I think of like the sniper scene, for example, when they're pinned down. That is an interesting scene where we know where the snipers are. We know what's behind them. We know what's to the left of them. Like we're in the middle of nowhere, but we know where we are. And that the visual storytelling is superb. So very good marks there.
So Tristan, how strongly do you disagree with Darren about the camera movement?
Almost completely. Yeah, I mean, okay. There are moments when you're going full on green grass, but there are a lot of times when you're not. So it's not like it's shaky cam all the time. And there are
this
a lot
isn't
of
a Bourne
times,
movie.
Yeah, it's not a Bourne movie. It's not green grass. It's just. Although there is a moment that made me feel like it started to become a Bourne movie, but we'll get to that. But it's like right off the bat, you're getting. I mean, and this was so first decade of the 2000s. This was so 2000s with this documentary style feel where like right off the bat, like you get that super zoom. Like it's not quite like the 70s zoom, snap zoom, but it's that like, oh, we got to zoom in, refocus because I'm there. I'm shaking because I'm the camera and I'm near the explosion. I'm actually here with them, but they're not acknowledging my presence. It's kind of like The Office, but not really. I know I sound like I'm mocking the cinematography, but I'm not because it was shot beautifully.
You are, but
but it's just the style of the decade. It permeated that decade so completely. Like even in the like TV shows, like when you look at Battlestar Galactica or Firefly, like I know I just gave two sci-fi examples, but you have that snap zoom and that you see them focus in real time. That was very much this movie. Like that was the cornerstone of its action cinematography. But was it there even when they were in the Humvee or when they were just like talking in the barracks? No.
Yeah. The thing is to speak to the, you say the goes full green grass. Barry Ackroyd, the director of photography, did work with green grass. And so it makes sense that he felt very comfortable with this type of film. But more importantly, here we are, we've watched all of these Bigelow movies up to this point. Do you feel that this is a director fully embracing her true style, her true nature? Do you feel this is an evolution of Bigelow, or do you feel that this is Bigelow adapting for a certain storytelling style?
I'm going to cheat and say both.
That is
because I believe that like you specifically, John, like you made a lot of really great points as we went on, because you were very keen in talking about the cinematography and the geography and the editing and seeing it progress from near dark all the way up to now. And you talked about the evolution of Bigelow's style, and you can see a clear through line all the way through from near dark to today. Or I shouldn't say today, but back in 2008, 2009, with Hurt Locker. And you see the confidence and you see what's going on. And even though she shot, I think it was something like a 200-to-1 ratio of how much she shot to how much she used.
That's like Coppola level.
It's insane. Yeah, that's like Heart of Darkness, Coppola level type filming. But unlike Coppola, everything that she wanted to be in the film that was shot was put in there. Like there was not a single scene that was cut. Now, granted, I'm sure there were scenes that were trimmed down. I'm sure there was things that were left out that were involved in certain scenes, just like any film that you make. But this movie, she had final cut, which is awesome. And she also, she was along in the writing process and saw what she wanted to do, made it happen, and then that's what came out. Like this was her baby. Like I think Jim Cameron gave her the script and said, you should direct this, and she helped fine tune it with Bull, and I think that's how you say his name. And they storyboarded it out. They're like, this is what we want to do, this is what we want to make, and they made the film they wanted to make. This is Bigelow at her best. Like she won Best Picture. This was a clear and concise honoring of her work and effort and craft up until this moment. It's just like she's been doing this for decades, and boom, this was the result.
So Darren, with her coming in and being confident and knowing the story she wants to tell, there are a couple of names here in the cast where when you see them, you're used to like, oh, well, that person will be in this movie for a little while. David Morse is in it for like 10 seconds or something like that. I still like even even on this rewatch, like David Morse walks on, I'm like, yeah, David Morse, he's really great. Where'd he go? What's happening? I'm not sure why. And Ray
what was
Fiennes,
the point of that? I'm sorry to derail your question, but what was the point of having Morse's not just Morse, but like Morse's character in there?
I think he communicates sort of like that testosterone laden machismo bravado type of character. That's like he has that sort of aura about him. Maybe Morse was chosen and when the script was earlier on and it whittled down to just that one scene. I don't know.
No, yeah, this casting is really good. I mean, besides the fact you have your three, your little triad of the unit, but I think we were joking earlier, like when Guy Pearce shows up, and you're like, "Sorry, Guy, I don't think gotta make way for the lead character coming up right on your heels."
The moment you see Guy Pearce, you're like, "Whoa, you're not Jeremy Renner." Yeah. And you're not like a Brad Pitt name, but you're a big name. And so I have a feeling this is kind of a glorified cameo and you're gone.
Yeah. As soon as you see him put on the bomb suit, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, you know what? We know who's supposed to be bomb suit guy. We need a vacancy. How do we get that?
Which one of these people is not coming? Oh, it's him.
Right. But then you have like, Ralph Fiennes, like that was really cool seeing him. Although in that scene, he kind of like disappears. Like he's there and then like, I guess were they waiting out the sniper, but then everyone else just like went home? I don't know. It was really weird because we kept cutting over to the other people.
Well, he got killed really quick. And I think like his other guys got dropped because there's one guy that gets dropped.
Yeah.
He gets shot while he's trying to draw a bead on the other people, which I thought, I mean, that was a really well executed scene because I think that what that communicated, the tension in that scene reminded me of the first time I saw Platoon when I was far too young to have seen it in the movie theaters. And Gen X, we loved seeing stuff too.
I was going to say, weren't you like 10 when Platoon came out?
I was like 12 when I saw it in the movie theater or something like that.
Oh my God.
That's okay. My cousin who was 4 years younger was sitting next to me. Whatever. What are you going to do? Sorry. I feel like all of us who took him should send an apology note at this point. But anyway, the scene where they have that standoff and they're going back and forth actually reminded me very much of the tension of Platoon, where they are on the night patrol and Charlie Sheen is awake, even though he's not the one on watch. And he's just sitting there and the camera comes up over and he's like, just sitting there. He's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. Like I look at that scene, I don't know, how did it play with you, Tris? And like, I look at that scene and like, I'm so unnerved because I'm like, I don't know what I would do in this situation. Like, I'm like, I have to sit here and it's just a war of attrition basically at this point. Well, eventually everybody on one side or the other is going to die. Which side am I on? Like I can't imagine the tension in that moment.
Yeah. I just want to say first for that scene, the thing that drew me in was when they're making their shots and they're close, but they have to like compensate. It made me think of like every first person shooter video game I've ever done and how in those you take for granted the fact that your gun will shoot exactly where you expect it to. And you have amazing aim. And so bad guys over there, no big deal. But when all of a sudden you introduce the fact that I might not actually hit what I'm aiming for, and I only have so many rounds. Like that itself added way more tension than anything.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, because another big applause for the movie because it takes into account the fact that like, okay, at the distance that you're at, wind is going to affect where the bullet goes. There's going to be recoil. There's going to be like one guy is looking and telling him where to go, but he's also looking through a sight, but they're off by a couple of, inches. And so that's going to affect the trajectory of the bullet and everything. Yeah. It's a pretty amazing scene, I think, at the very least. Tristan, did Was that a standout scene for you? Do you feel that the movie was able to get to that tension level with all of its scenes, or was it more of a slow burn for you?
I think that one was a little bit of a slow burn for me because so many people died early on. Because like the British folk died, and so I was just like, okay, our guys are probably safe because they killed all the British folk pretty early on. So just in the realm of storytelling, like if this was a standalone scene, I probably would be a little bit more amped up. I'd be have a little bit more anxiety. I think there were scenes in there that I definitely had more anxiety at the beginning of the movie than I did at the end, and I think that's probably just a fact of the structure of the film, where it's just like, okay, is this a movie or is this 7 scenes where you defuse a bomb? And by this, by the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th time where you're defusing a bomb, the anxiety is kind of gone because you're just on edge the entire time. Like our body our mind tells our body, okay, relax. It's not real. You cannot sustain this the entire time. And so you're not going to get that anxiety reaction that you did in the first 2 or 3 times. And so by the time we got to that scene, even though it's a good scene, I like how it's shot. I like how it's acted. I really like that moment with the juice at the end, because I think seeing Anthony Mackie just kind of shut down a little bit. Like he can't stop. He can't stop paying attention. He's clearly affected by what he just did, and he's so amped up that he can't take his attention away. Renner's like, okay, just have some juice, get your sugar level up. That I like that moment. But I feel like the anxiety dwindles as it goes on, and then it kind of peaks back up again at the very end with the dude in the suit with the vest bomb, because you're just like, okay, who are they going to kill off this time? Are we going to do a big bomb where everybody dies? Is it going to be Shakespearean, or is everybody going to walk away? You don't actually know, but all this stuff in between, everybody's going to walk away.
So, Darren, do you think that the ebb and flow of the tension, at the very beginning of the movie, the last 3 words or 4 words that are on screen from, it starts with 2 lines, and then the last 4 words that sit there, war is a drug. And it goes on. Do you think that tension, spike, ebb and flow speaks to that theme? The idea that Tristan is talking about, where it's like you get a little numb, and then it's like you need a stronger and stronger hit to maintain.
Yeah, well, and that's, definitely what's happening to Jeremy Renner, because in the first few disarmaments, it's like another day at the office. Like he's too chill, and he's just like, oh yeah, look, cut the red wire, blah blah blah. Here we go, we're do, And I kind of like the moment where he like takes off the suit and is all like, there's enough, like this suit's gonna do nothing. If this goes off, like I'm dead, so I might as well be comfortable. And I'm like, I'm sure that's not, standard procedure, but I do, yeah, the ebb and flow, I think they do. You can tell they're trying to not one note it, where you have the detonation killing the the psych officer. So that's the bomb that no one saw coming. Then you have like the bomb vest, which is the one where we get to see our hero not be able to succeed in disarming it, and someone loses their life, because the other ones are all just got to get them all cut before the guy hits the button. Like that is the same kind of thing with slight variations. That iconic shot of him tugging on the cord and like 5. Like,
what a great shot!
Is so. That's why it's on like half the posters. It's so you're just
super
like,
unrealistic, super stupid, but really great shot.
But all that to say, yeah, I like the progression of Renner's character, where you can see, okay, the cup is full. It's starting to overflow now. I don't know how long he's been on tour. I don't know how many deployments he's done, but you can tell it's finally, the cracks are showing. And I don't know what his next tour is going to be like a whole nother year, but something, hitched up his boots and he's ready to go back. Like he can't see another world beyond this job, beyond the Hurt Locker.
Speaking of the cracks showing, Tristan, to Darren's point there, what did you think about the subplot of him mistaking the dead body for the young boy, and basically that sort of mental break that he has where it is affecting him on an emotional level?
Hated it. That was my least favorite part of the movie. Friggin' hated it. It completely took me out of the picture, because that's one of the moments where it kind of stopped being okay. Okay, I know that movies aren't documentaries, even though they really wanted to shoot it like a documentary. Movies are not documentaries. Movies are fun. Movies are interesting. Movies are dramatic, and they're not real life. But certain movies have a veneer of real life. This movie had a veneer of real life, just like Saving Private Ryan. Even though there was a lot that happened in Private Ryan that was not realistic, this is kind of had that same tone where you're just like, oh, I feel like I'm watching something real, even though people who have gone through EOD or gone through the Iraq War or Afghanistan or something like that can recognize that it's not real life. Certain things are like the emotional aspects of the movie are real. Like when they get to the core of what it's like to be in deployment or what it's like to go through something like this, that's real, and that's cinema. You know, this isn't a how-to manual, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, and that's not what I'm saying. But this moment really took me out, because it stopped being a movie about a soldier on duty or a soldier going through a rotation or a soldier going into a group for EOD and everything like that, and started becoming more like a Bourne movie where this guy is going out on his own. The entire idea that this guy is sneaking off base to, you know, track a lead that he doesn't know is real, because like that's the thing, is that like he can't, he's going to trust this guy who sells bootleg DVDs to take him to the right place. He could have been, and probably was, in some random person's home, some absolutely random person's home. And also, like, when he leaves, he's just a random short white guy, you know, running through Baghdad. It's just no. And like, and then no, it completely took it out of the film. Like if he was found out, he would have been disciplined. He would have been sent home. Like that kind of crap doesn't stand. And it really took me out of it. And I'm really glad. One saving grace, and I'm not saying it actually saved it, but one attempted saving grace was that it was a completely fruitless endeavor. That really helped the story, I think, in my opinion, is that it was completely fruitless because it was a stupid ass decision.
So, Darren, you know, given everything Tristan has just said, you know, I would offer the counterpoint that that's probably the scene where the commentary about interventionism and stuff like that is layered in there. You know, it's a you know, sort of a comment about like he doesn't actually know who quote unquote the enemy is. He's not sure what's really going on. He mistakes something and he goes, you know, it sends him over the edge, and he goes and he does something without thinking. You know, given those two very separate poles that Tristan and I find ourselves at, where do you find yourself gravitating more toward?
Yeah, I think, you know, the middle is kind of the next him going off book scene, when he's like, oh, this thing was blown up. I know there's a boogeyman in the dark, so let's go get him. And even Mackie's like, oh, we got 2 platoons of guys who like their job is to go get right there. That should have been the end of it, like in the real world. But yeah, and then they are just like, hey, let's go off. And I think while he does make choices and has lack of consequences that do bend from reality, even when he's doing those choices, there's the ever-present, you're in a war zone. No door is safe. No corner should be unchecked. Like that is present throughout the entire film. And I think they communicated that. So I'll give them marks for that, even if the choices the characters were making. I mean, I was even like, why are you guys punching each other? Like that sounds like a stupid way to get on the, you know, in the medical bay when you should be out disarming. It's like, oh, sorry, I can't disarm bombs on Tuesday because you ruptured my spleen when you punched me in the gut at point break. Sure, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, that scene obviously is just more commentary on sort of like the adrenaline junkie testosterone laden environment that they're in, just like how it's out of control. And, there's no, I find it very interesting. We made reference to the therapist who, or psychiatrist, I'm sorry, who, blows up because he decides to go out. Oh yeah, I'll try to understand better what you guys are going through, and blows up. But it is, that is one of those things where you see sort of what the uphill battle is. Like there is no, I think one of the core questions of the film is there a point to that psychiatrist being there? Like, can you possibly have a quote unquote healthy environment when this is what you're doing? Right? Like is having somebody there to sort of process things, like, is that even possible? And then, and then Renner goes home and it's like, he can't even go back to civilian life. Like this is just this bizarre world that they live in. And, the bizarre world that they live in, Tristan, it's easy enough to say, well, the Hurt Locker is the friends we made along the way. Sorry, bad joke. But, that Hurt Locker, what do you think the title is trying to say? Is it trying to say that they're the ones trapped in the locker, that they put the pain in there, they can't process it adequately? What do you think that title is trying to say?
Well, Hurt Locker doesn't it mean, like in military vernacular, like when you get yourself in a bad spot and you get hurt because of it? Am I wrong?
I've never been in the military, so I don't know.
I always took it as slang for the bomb suit is how I was reading it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't actually know. So now I need to know.
So, okay, here's what it is. Hurt Locker is U.S. military slang meaning a place or situation where someone is in extreme pain, danger, or serious trouble. It's not specific to bombs. It predates the Iraq War and was used in Vietnam. So I feel like this is pretty apropos. Yeah. I feel like this could be used in a lot of different variations. So that's what I think it means. I think it means that it's when you're in the poo.
Well, okay, yeah, in the poo. Yes, that's a very popular phrase with the soldiers that are deployed.
Yeah, the soldiers use that phrase a lot.
Yeah, in the poo, definitely in the poo. So we're going through, and what's funny is there's a thing where music obviously is a big part of the film experience, but Darren, what was there music in this movie? Like, where was it when it happened?
Actually, the music in this one was really good, but it's a different kind of music where it is very subtly underscoring certain moments. Like when you start to hear the music, you're like, okay, it's about to get real. Either something's going to go wrong or something's going to happen. So it was used very sparingly, but this is the kind of movie where music and like sound design, like those are working in harmony because the sound design is the music of this movie. Mm-hmm. The sound of an explosion, the breathing while you're in the vest, the 5-minute long bullet casing shot as it ricochets and pings off of the. Okay, it wasn't 5 minutes, but it was
I love
fairly long.
They shot this. Speaking of early 2000s, they shot this on the Phantom, which shoots something like 2,000 frames a second. It's insane. It's insane. I loved the Guy Pearce. I loved Guy Pearce dying. I'm going on record and I'm saying that I loved Guy Pearce dying because it was shot on Phantom, and I love explosions in slow motion. I just absolutely love it, and this movie did it so well at the beginning, like when with the rocks just kind of rising up. And one thing, like, even though this movie only has a veneer of accuracy, one thing that I really like that it did is that it didn't look like Hollywood explosions. It looked like actual, like what it looks
fireballs,
like no fireballs.
Debris.
Thank you, Darren. That's exactly right.
Sorry, I'm saying your words before you say them.
Like any elite team over time, we can complete each other's thoughts. That's very, very true.
We can even give each other's ratings. We're so in tune.
Sandwiches.
And that's why nobody should ever miss a show, is because their rating will be given for them and it will be accurate and immovable. That's very, very true. So, I like what you're saying about the music and the sound design working hand in hand, Darren. I think that's very true. It's very accurate for this. But a big part of this as well, is the ratio of footage shot to footage used and telling the story and whittling it down. obviously you have Chris Innes and Bob Murawski. I think they're, or at least at the time, they were married. So they're working on the film. Tristan, I'd love to throw the editing question to you at first all the time, but is this another case of, like you said about Merch, invisible editing, where it doesn't draw attention to itself? Or do you feel that this editing does draw attention to itself?
I think the cinematography does the heavy lifting of drawing attention to itself. I feel like the editing itself gets you where you need to go. This is more Merch than not. Because you don't think about the editing. You're thinking about the cinematography. Like people who are, cinema fans, film fans, movie fans, whatever you want to call yourself, like when you pay attention to those things. And it's tangent. It's always so strange when I talk to somebody, and like I was talking about how I was like, oh, that movie was garbage, and they're like, oh yeah, but her performance was so good, so it was a great movie. And I was like, no. The cinematography was garbage. The editing was garbage. The writing was garbage. The directing was garbage. They're like, yeah, but Meryl Streep was so good. I was like, I don't care. It's so strange how often like that's your general audience right there. But that was also one of the benefits of the movie, is that you have this indie feel, but yet it's made. It didn't have that big of a budget actually, but it had an indie feel, but yet it had that big promoting. It had good people in it, and it was dealing with a subject that you couldn't do with just an indie film. But yeah, to answer your question, the editing I think was really well done because it wasn't excessive. Like you didn't need that. Like this wasn't Black Hawk Down. Like if you watch Black Hawk Down, I feel like that's a fair comparison movie, right?
Yeah.
If you're watching Black Hawk Down, and this is not a knock on that, the editing brings itself to attention a great deal because it's Ridley Scott. Like it was Ridley Scott in that era of Ridley Scott where he was really flashy. This is not a flashy film in terms of editing, but it was in cinematography. And I feel like it made a lot of really solid choices in cinematography.
Darren, speaking of that cinematography, and the editing, a movie I can't help but think of. I want to ask you if you've seen it. Have you ever seen Jarhead with Jake Gyllenhaal?
I have not, but it does feel like, when we have those duo of films, not that they're exactly the same, but it's like, oh, our minds like to see patterns of like, oh, look at these two films that are very similar, but they're obviously also very different.
I think it'd be very interesting. And Tristan, I don't know if you've seen Jarhead, but like, I think it would be very interesting to watch these two movies side by side, because as I recall, Jarhead, it is a more polished, more big studio type of thing, although it's dealing with the very similar sort of thing about trying to process, going through these type of wartime situations and what it does to a person and how it can change them and divert them. It would just be very interesting to see those two films put against each other.
Yeah, it definitely deals with the mundane of being a soldier a little bit more than Hurt Locker.
Yeah, that's true. Hurt Locker is more like we're a specialist team with a very specific mandate and job description versus like a jarhead, a grunt.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because Hurt Locker is a movie that instantly jumps to mind when you start talking about cinema that's about dealing with a wartime situation, a modern wartime situation. But, I made reference to Platoon before. There were so many Vietnam movies in the 80s, like from the 70s, like it was just nonstop. It was like one every 6 months was coming out. Now, I learned a lot about war film and film in general by watching all of them growing up, and it definitely, shapes your tastes over time. But I mean, Darren, why is it you think that Hurt Locker sticks? We're almost 20 years in. Why is it with this very content-rich environment that we're in, why is Hurt Locker the one that's sticky? Why is that the one that stays in everybody's brains?
I think, there's something about it being about a more modern war. The Iraq War not being that far there. It's not like World War II or Civil War, where it's almost into legend territory. It's just so far back and all the stories that have been told. But I think, Bigelow strikes that balance of a narrative story, because you have to have a narrative, but also, rooted in an interesting tale, a single man's struggle, like all the main points. Like, it's a well constructed film narratively, even though it does kind of feel a little vignette-y, like they're different. Each day's mission is a little like chapter of the week, because there's no two things are the same, but it isn't bad. And like Tristan was saying, it's a film of maybe those 5 interesting days happened over a year, but of course for us, they're going to happen in a weekend because we have to keep the story, interesting. But I think that's my main takeaway is that, by setting it in a modern war, going deep enough into the characters and their struggles, but also keeping it, interesting enough that it's not an edge of your seat. Like, there are definitely moments, but it's not like The Rock or some other movie where the percussion hits you and it's like, da 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 da, here we go, and we're storming in, or Aliens, where we're like, we're merging satire with like otherworldly invaders.
I'm surprised and yet not surprised that we haven't done House of Bay, since you bring up The Rock.
Oh, I'm not surprised we haven't done House of Bay. That just seems like such dangerous territory to get into. But Tristan, this is your first viewing. Why do you think, with this first viewing behind you now, why is Hurt Locker such a sticky movie? Why is it one that stays on everybody's brains? I mean, AFI selected this, actually, if I recall. Yeah, National Film Registry selected it in 2020 for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Why do you think Hurt Locker lands?
I think the reason why it lands is because you could put this movie in any war at any time and it would still land the same. Because in this movie, it doesn't matter what the backdrop is. It doesn't matter that it's the Iraq War. It doesn't matter that it's the Afghan War or Desert Storm, Vietnam, World War II, World War I. It doesn't really matter. It's about the human experience in war. And you have these archetypes. You have the cowboy, you have the wild card, you have the pup who is innocent and is concerned about, like, who's feeling guilty. You have the person who wants to have a life afterwards but yet feels responsibility. You have people going home and not knowing how to interact with the public or interact with their family because war is all that they know now. It has such universal themes. And this movie does such a great job, and I don't say this as a knock. This movie does such a great job being apolitical that it's about the experience of war and men through war. And it's not about like, Bush lied, or like we went to war under false pretenses, or the Iraqis don't want us there, or anything like that. I mean, all the subtext is there, of course, but that's just what it is. It's subtext. This is about Jeremy Renner, Anthony Mackie, and forgive me, what's his name? About going
Brian
through.
Garrity.
Thank you, Brian Garrity, who I know from True Blood. Who he played. He played. The only thing that I recognize him from is in True Blood. He played a soldier in the Afghan War.
See, the thing is, I actually recall him from Flight, which is a 2012 Zemeckis film, which I think is a gorgeous film, an absolutely magnificent overlooked film. But anyway, we're here to finish talking about Hurt Locker.
That's my answer. Is that like it's about the experience. It's about the experience of war more than the war itself.
Fair enough. So I think we've gotten our thoughts out. We've gone through. We've processed this. I think we're here. We're at the moment where we're going to give our final thoughts and ratings. And Tristan, since this is your first go round with the Hurt Locker, what are your final thoughts and the rating that you land at here with Kathryn Bigelow's award-winning, Best Picture-winning Hurt Locker?
I'm happier that Bigelow won with Best Picture and that it won so many noms than it is that I am for it winning Best Picture. I think this is a great movie. I think it's really good. I think it has some great performances. It has something to say about the experience. I think Jeremy Renner and Anthony Mackie give great performances. And by the way, I didn't get to talk about this, but I am very much Team Mackie when it comes to I am very much on Falcon's side when it comes to who's right and who's wrong. I would be friggin' pissed as hell. I would punch my team leader if he did the things that he did in real life, that he did in this movie, like taking off his headset, not like refusing to give an answer when he throws a friggin' smoke bomb at the beginning. Like all those things. I'm like, Jeremy Renner in this movie is a friggin' jackass. And some people might say like, oh, well, he was down to earth and concerned about his compadres, when it mattered. I don't care. That's great that he does it when it's mattered, when it matters. But I want him to be a good person the entire time, not just part of the time. But the thing is that I can't remember who said it, but some famous person said, I've served with the very best of men and I've served with the very worst of men. And that's who you get in the military. And this is very evocative of that. I think the cinematography is great, even though it's very 2000s. And I love that it's shot in 16 millimeter. And like I said, great performances, great direction, but there's just certain points here and there where I'm just like, it feels very vignette-y, and there were points that really took me out of it, like the Bourne Legacy point where he goes rogue and goes off base. So I give it 4 stars because it's a really good movie. It deserved all the accolades, and Bigelow definitely deserved it, but this is not a perfect film.
Fair enough. I will actually say that while everybody loves to talk about the fact that this won and she beat Cameron, it was a very packed field in 2008, and I will agree with you. I think that the Hurt Locker benefited from that. Because just because I pulled it up, just out of curiosity, the Hurt Locker wins the 2009 awards for 2008 movies. So you have the Hurt Locker, Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, In Education, Inglourious Bastards, Precious, A Serious Man, Up, and Up in the Air. That is a crowded field.
Whew, that's a good year.
That's an insane. Yeah, and somehow The Dark Knight wasn't in there, but whatever. And you have a situation here where it's like, I mean, this is the more everybody wanted more films added. Cool, I get it. It makes sense. We don't want it to be just 5 that are up there because the one we loved won't ever get nominated. But you split the vote, and you split the vote in such a way that the eventual winner is going to benefit. I mean, it's the following year you have The King's Speech wins, but that's a year that's got The Fighter, Inception, The Kids Are All Right, 127 Hours, The Social Network, Toy Story 3, True Grit, Winners. It's like, I'm not trying to take anything away from Bigelow's victory because I understand why it won. But, I definitely think that in another year, if you whittled that down to like a true quote unquote top 5, I think Hurt Locker has a longer shot, longer odds at winning. All that to say, I agree with you, Tristan. This is a 4-star film. It's a strong 4. And while I defend and I understand what she's saying with his, going off base cowboy moment, I similarly sort of like disconnected because I was like, wait, what movie am I watching now? What's happening here? And then at the end, when they go off after the people, I agree. I'm like, the veneer of reality, to use your term, Mackie isn't just saying, no, we got a platoon of guys. It's like, I'm going off after him. He's tackling him, putting him in an arm bar and like zip tying him. It's like, okay, this guy's had a psychotic break. He's trying to do something completely insane. He's not going off base ever again. And they're going to take him off for evaluation. So 4 stars. Darren, that brings us to you. Where do you land with the Hurt Locker?
Yeah, this was, while it's not a movie I had watched again recently, it's been a while. I did really enjoy going back into this world, into these characters. I think a lot is to be said on what was pulled off. Like, it's not a guarantee. Oh, we shot in Jordan. Oh, we shot in the summer, and it's going to all look real and come together and work. And our characters are going to be likable and interesting. And, the tension is going to be there. Like, you have to build all of that. And she did it, although while it was, financially successful and did well, it's not making Avatar money, but that's okay. Nothing else does. But
I mean, that's the thing, though. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that we didn't talk about. This is the lowest grossing Best Picture film so far.
It's like 49 million, like 50 million. That's it.
And at the time of its release, it was like they only counted domestic. It made its budget back, not even marketing costs. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we could just make an Oscar category, the most box office, with, I don't know if that would be worth winning, but no, I'm giving it a 4.2. I think we're all in agreement. 4s across the board, and it's a fun, like I said, it's a fun film to revisit. It is nice seeing, Mackie, and when you see him, because he's not the protagonist, but he is kind of leading the squad a little bit. Like, he's a little more straight man, a little more like, I'm going to keep you all alive because I'm going to make the right decision. So anytime seeing him on screen is always a pleasure.
Now, I will interject really quick that Bigelow, I think a few years later, is undone by the number of nominations for Best Picture when Zero Dark 30 loses to Argo, which I'm taking nothing away from Argo. Love the film. But like, that was another one where it was like that, it was like 9 insane movies. And it was like, oh, well, Zero Dark 30 actually kind of is better, even better than The Hurt Locker. Like you sort of,
right. Yeah.
Well, just like all nominations,
I'll take something away
it's
from
what you're
Argo.
up against.
Huh? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. There are our thoughts on The Hurt Locker. We are closing the doors on this wing of Houselights, which we are calling House of Bigelow. And it's setting us up to shift now to look at another director. Darren, why don't you let the audience know who that's going to be?
That's right. We're going to be covering Luc Besson of the 90s, starting with La Femme Nikita from 1990 here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.